decided to do my project on outlaw motorcycle clubs, or as we more commonly know them as biker gangs. This little quote down here, I think was a great introduction, so I wanted to share it with you guys. This bohemian subculture is populated by blue-collar, white, little-educated individuals, mostly men, some of them war veterans, often with a passion for motorcycling and occasionally involved in illegal activities. I would say more than occasionally on the illegal activities. That's something I do disagree with. I'd say more often than not, if you are in this subculture, you definitely are involved in illegal activities. The reason why I chose this topic is because I've always had an interest in it. I remember growing up watching documentaries whenever they were on, like National Geographic, about biker gangs, and I think that it's fascinating how organized they are in their crime, and they're not really talked about in the media as much as the others. And so they're kind of the underdog, but very powerful, and in some people's eyes known as, some of the most successful gangs in the country and most violent. Okay, so what is an outlaw motorcycle club? Today, outlaw motorcycle gangs are sophisticated organizations who utilize their affiliation with a motorcycle club as a conduit for criminal activity. So there are conventional motorcycle clubs and there's outlaw motorcycle clubs. Conventional clubs are recognized by the American Motorcycle Association, also known as AMA. They are legal. The outlaw motorcycle clubs are not recognized by the AMA and not legal, mostly recognized by criminal justice forces because of their organized crime. It is estimated that about 44,000 participate in one of these outlaw groups. That's quite a bit, but some gangs make up that for just one group, 44,000. So to put it in perspective, it's still a pretty small number compared to other gangs, but it's quite a few Americans who are involved. And that list is like the biggest, wealthiest, most violent groups that I listed there. The AMA sanctioned 300 clubs by 1930s and considered legally responsible motorcyclists, and the outlaws were considered deviant and outlawed from participating in AMA events. So the first motorcycle was made in 1894. The modern motorcycle as we know it, though, wasn't formed until 1915, although motorcycle groups started forming in 1904, 1906. There was a few. Then the World War I happened. Motorcycles were used in communication services in the war. Less horse and buggy were used to transmit messages, more motorcycle. Same with World War II. Their war uses rose, and along with that, after the war, since there were more bikes being produced and Harley-Davidson had some money in war, they took Harley-Davidson boomed in the 1940s, and that became like the popular bike. That became the symbol of the biker clubs, and still is as we know it today. Let me see, 1947. That is the turning point for biker clubs and the AMA. In Hollister, California, they had an event, and this was closely after the war. There was a lot more people that were attending than ever before. The community was not happy about it. There were a lot of drinking and debauchery, a bunch of men hanging out, which can be scary. So they weren't very happy about it, and the AMA president came out later and made a statement saying that 99% of motorcyclists are law-abiding citizens and not harmful, but there's 1% who are outlaws and who are barbarians, who are criminals, and that outlaw stigma was only reinforced by this group of people, and they took it to the fullest, and today formed very much outlaw groups and continue um, that reputation and love having that reputation, actually. So it definitely backfired. Um, yeah, this is what I just briefly talked about, thus creating conventional biker clubs and outlaw biker clubs. So the one percenters, you'll see a lot. There's a lot of biker club guys that wear 1% patches on their vests, basically saying that they are part of the 1% outlaws. Okay, so why do these men join these clubs back in the 1940s? What was so alluring about it? Well, men were coming back from war. They didn't necessarily have jobs. They might have left a rocky home life. They were usually low to middle income. There was a lot that had changed in result of both the world wars and the World War II ending. There was a lot of men experienced PTSD, and were kind of, again, floundering around, where do I go from here after being in war so long? And there was this like uproar of biker lifestyle. It was intriguing. I know if I was in their position, I would feel that it was gonna complete my need for adrenaline rush and camaraderie with these men. They were with a bunch of men in the military. That's what they were surrounded by. They were surrounded by intimidation and violence, and to come back home where you need to soften and kind of step away from that can be hard. So this was a bridge in the gap, per se, for men who needed an identity, wanted an outlet, wanted that camaraderie back at the homeland. Harley Davidson bikes were the most popular in the 1940s, became the icon of outlaw bikers. The life of a biker is riding. His bike is his first obligation, no matter what is wrong. If he has $10 to his name and his bike needs an oil change, then his bike gets an oil change. Anything for the bike. And I have a quote here from history.com.uk. Another world war saw motorbikes in combat and later gave rise to a new culture where motorbikes were used for recreation and to project a certain lifestyle. Motorcycles were being designed to cater to an image as well as function, and they got bigger, meaner, louder, and faster than ever before. So this is a history of the violence having to do with outlaw motorcycle groups. One of the most famous is 1969 Rolling Stones concert. The concert venue actually hired Hell's Angels to secure the place, and that ended up backfiring once again. A Hell's Angels member went and killed somebody in the audience who was a member of another group. So needless to say, they never got asked to do that again. And these are just some of the common brawls that have happened and murders that have happened publicly, I guess. 2015 was like the biggest, most recent shootout. That was against the Banditos, and I can't remember the other one. Banditos mainly run Texas, because that's where they were formed. But interesting enough, in Denver, May of 2016, at the convention center, there was a motorcycle expo. An Iron Order member, which is a conventional club, killed a Mongol member. And after a Mongol had asked them to leave, and the Iron Order were just there to cause trouble. They're not an outlaw gang. They dress up as biker guys, and they're actually like law enforcement. I think kind of pointless, but I will talk about that later. Biker health, drug use, cigarette use, heavy drinking. It's very common. They all pitch into a pool of money where they have endless amounts of beer and booze. It is an open bar, so that is just a part of their lifestyle. They traffic a lot of drugs. That's how they make money, so I would imagine that they use them. My friend said that they're moving meth right now is mainly what they're trafficking. And I asked him if he thinks they're using, and he said, I don't know, but probably if it's in their hands, why not? It's a violent culture. Injury is prominent. Your risk of being murdered is higher than the average person. Nobody wears helmet. And not that I don't think it's a common thing for these guys to have a bike accident, but I think it's more common for them to be hurt by other people, but that's definitely a health risk. And these guys are likely not to see a doctor. Overall, I didn't find sources on biker health. It just talked about how they don't wear helmets, but these are men who don't let weakness through. So seeing a doctor is probably not in their agenda. Family's role, the family is not involved in the operation of the club. Wives and girlfriends are called old ladies. They're only called old ladies. They're not called girlfriends or wives. And they follow the direction of their husbands. If their husbands say it's time to go sleep with somebody else in the club, then that's what they're going to go do. It's very traditional style marriage and relationships. Legacy, they call legacy. Legacy is a term that describes the inheritance that the son takes on. If you are a son of a member, you are automatically in the club. You don't have to go through initiation. Religious bikers, I would say the club is their religion. They have symbolism. They have their clubhouses. It's like their church. They live, eat, breathe. The biker gang, this is their value system. Their value system is set by this, just like a religion. I think it's very similar. But no, they are not going to church on Sundays, most likely. They already have a value system in which they're loyal to. And it is ironic that many clubs have satanic symbolism, which it doesn't necessarily mean that they're satanic, but they're rebellious, so why not have a devil's head somewhere? Success in society, I would say, is strong. They've been going strong for about 70 plus years now. They are very organized and difficult to prosecute because of how organized they are and kind of undercover. They do all their crime work. The law enforcement really has to infiltrate carefully if they want to prosecute some of these guys and get them in for long-term time. I know of a couple stories my friend told me, and when he was telling me, I remembered I watched this documentary about this a few years ago. A New Mexico officer led by the FBI infiltrated a Hells Angels chapter down there and actually got fully patched in, which means that you're fully initiated in, which can take years, and did take years. The law enforcement had to stage a whole murder in order for this officer to be patched in, undercover, and he sacrificed his whole family, his marriage. He had to be completely part of this life for years, and go to find out after all said and done, the FBI had screwed up the protocol for obtaining evidence and botched their prosecution. No member of the club got more than 15 years in prison. Uh, the officer that was undercover was pretty upset because he had almost lost his family to this job that took years and was very high risk. Yeah, nobody got put away for, 15 years is a lot of time, but they were trying to get these guys for life. I also watched this Netflix documentary called Outlaws, and it's about the 90s and early 2000s in Vancouver. These two officers tried to take down this chapter that was going rampant in their city at the time, and I didn't finish it, so I don't know how it ended up. But the first couple times they tried to prosecute the guys, it did not work. In comparison to other gangs like Bloods, MS-13, Aryan Brotherhood, outlaw gangs are not nearly as populous. I think alone in Aryan Brotherhood there's like 45,000 members. So, top outlaw clubs. Hells Angels is the largest, most organized, wealthiest. Arguably the most violent, although I saw on the source I was reading from here, outlaws were the most violent. But the big four, which these are two of the big four clubs, as the media or journalists name them, are the strongest. Sonny Barger is the godfather, the basically creator, organizer of the Hells Angels. He lives in Oakland, California. That is the origin of the club. I guess he's still hanging on to dear life, my friend said, but gives messages and orders to this day to the club. Bandidos is another large one, born in Texas. They're Hispanic. I know that this source said they associate with Hells Angels, but they've also had some shootouts with Hells Angels too. Hells Angels are white supremacists, and Bandidos were formed kind of in opposition to that. Let's see. Sons of Silence, not part of the big four. Mongols, I think, and the Pagans are the other big four. Sons of Silence is not, although very successful, growing. I just thought I'd put them in there since they were established here in Denver. So Iron Order, who I mentioned earlier about the shootout that went on here at the convention center, they're also called Iron Pigs. They're hated pretty much across all biker gangs. They can't prosecute them because they're not going undercover, but they are law enforcement who are interested in being a part of a biker culture, also trying to stir up drama with outlaw gangs. My friend described it, they're just playing dress up and causing drama, which is unfortunate, I guess, because they're not organized crime. There's no, I guess, real goal of them. But when they shoot, they kill because they are law enforcement. They are from military. They're going to be accurate, and most of the time when something happens, they end up killing somebody. Biker gang culture. So the outlaw biker's lifestyle revolves around such values as hypermasculinity, brotherhood, independence, outrageousness, mechanical skills. I thought that summed up the culture very well. They are a brotherhood who is hypermasculine and can work on bikes and who are crazy. They obtain, basically it all comes down to money and power. That is why these gangs exist, just like any other gang. Comes down to they want power and money. And they obtain power through dealing in narcotics, prostitution, relationships with women, violence, stealing, rape. They're racist a lot of the time, misogynistic. They're extremely violent and threatening. You don't want to mess with them. They know they will find out where your family lives, and which I think is just insane how quickly they find all that information out. Club is the gang they belong to. Chapter is the group within the club. Chapters do fight sometimes. Chapters are formed because, one group of men disagreed with the values of another group of men. Even though they're in the same club, there might be little tweaks that they don't necessarily agree with and don't want to be a part of. So they form their own chapter. I think there's about 13 Hells Angels in Colorado right now. They're very frat-like. You have to get initiated in, which is called patched in. When you're fully patched in, it takes quite a few years. My friend said back in the 70s and 80s, it was a year to 2 years at the most. Very intense initiation, though. Gross, gruesome, harmful initiation, which still happens today, but I guess it's not to the extent. Although you are a prospect, which means you're in that in-between stage before it, fully patching in for 3 to 4 years, which is a long time. He said he just talked to somebody the other day at the bar who's trying to be patched in and has been a prospect for 3 years and probably has about another year to go. So, no easy task. Also, being, beaten and mistreated all the time seems horrible. There's a book, a really famous book, I think by Hunter Thompson, that he went into in-depth detail about how this all goes down. And before you're even a prospect, you just have to hang around these people. That's how you start, is you're at a bar all the time, you're at a biker bar, and you're around these clubs all the time, and soon you get invited to go to events with them, back to the clubhouse with them. If they like you, you like them, then you become a prospect, and eventually, or possibly, be patched in later on. There is a hierarchy. You respect your bosses, you do whatever they say. If they say, go kill this person, then you go do it. The clubhouse, is their hub for open bar, women, their business offices, their club meetings, their motorcycle garage. It's their palace. Appearance, their vests are called cuts. They do not go anywhere without their cuts. You are never seen without your cut. End of story. If you're at home, you can take it off, of course, but other than that, you have to have it on because it's representing your group. The top on the back here, these on the PowerPoint describe on the back, the top rocker is the club name. The big symbol is in the middle is the symbol of the club, and then the bottom rocker is the chapter that you are in. And I thought this picture was great. The outlaw biker. Telltale tattoos, loud obnoxious V-twin ear blaster with straight pipes. Pretty much. Oh, and there's actually a bar, Sturgeon's. That is a Hells Angels bar. It's been around for, I think my friend said 75, 79 years, 70-something years. It's been a Hells Angels bar, but they are not able to wear their cuts in that bar anymore. There's been too many fights and shootings, I'm pretty sure. I think there was one kind of recently, but they're never covered in the media, or rarely ever, unless it's something huge. But if it's just a shooting on Colfax on a Saturday night between some Hells Angels and banditos, it's not. My friend would tell me all the time, there's a shooting, but didn't ever hear it on the news, which I think is kind of crazy. Banditos reign over the southern area of Denver, Castle Rock, Colorado Springs. Um, Hell's Angels are predominantly in North Denver. I know that they have a clubhouse in Fort Collins. I think somewhere in like more central Denver, and Sedalia is the newest one. There's several biker bars around the Denver metro area where they all hang out. The Piper Inn off, I think that's in Aurora. I know that's a really popular one. There's one off Pearl Street by DU. So yeah, it's just they're all around. They're in the community. They're actively hanging out, initiating people, but it's just something that unless you're involved in that kind of lifestyle, you never hear about. I asked my friend why doesn't he want to be a part of one? He is around these people, loves his bike, is all about it, but he just said it's just a frat party. It's an adult frat. I'm not going to pay to have friends and pay a monthly fee to have a house and with women. And he said that he said, I like my women. I don't want them to be with other males. And if you were an Outlaw member, your wife will probably be sleeping around, and you would be sleeping around too, because they have girls who just get passed around their clubhouses as well. So all in all, I thought it was really interesting. It was really interesting talking with my friend. To sum it up, the culture of these men is very masculine, violent, and it's a keep your head down and don't say anything kind of club. That's what he said, and just very interesting. There's a lot to know, and really interesting to know the prominence that we have in Denver of the outlaw clubs. So here am I. We're excited. Hopefully I inspired you to maybe look some cool information up. Yeah, it is absolutely fascinating. It was a fun project, so thank you very much.